Well, I've got these pieces. I've checked the center and make sure everything is level again. Everything has got its 3 coats of epoxy on the glass, you know, on the wetted out on the bottom here for extra strength, internal strength, and then on the vertical member, and then the bottom's got a, you know, you can see the shine on it now, the 3 coats that I've got on here. It helps when you're putting these on to use the scraper to spread it around, but then come by with, you know, like a 3-inch section of that cheap foam roller to even it out, and it gives you a much better finish. So now I'm going to go mix up some GelMagic. Well, I've got some older bottles heating up in the sun to make it a little more flow a little easier, and then we'll come back and put a bead along here and then along the edges where these bevels go, and then set those in place, and then on the forward edges of the center baffle here for this, and then I think I'll break out maybe my pin 23 gauge pin nailer and put in a few pins just to hold a couple pieces in place. So we'll come back when I get around to putting the gluing them together with the GelMagic. Here, get the GelMagic mixed up. Go ahead and put a big gob along the top here. You can kind of swirl it around on your stick to keep it from dripping away. And once it gets in place, it pretty much stays there. And do the faces here too. Along the sides here, it measures out to be right about off the edge of the fillet here. So we'll put a little thick path along here. We'll also, once this cures, come back with the nozzle and do the outside around all the edges, and then it gets filleted. And I don't know if I'll glass tape this size. I know these will get glass taped. I've already got some marks on the side as to where I want it to be. Check for level again. Got GelMagic on that, so while that's sitting there, I'm going to fire up the compressor and build up some air and come back and pin nail this in place. And I'm going to put some GelMagic along in here too, but I think after I get it in place just to hold it down. So let me come back. Well, I got my air built up. ahead and put some GelMagic in behind here where it's winging out, and then I'll put a couple more pin nails in. Got the nozzle on the GelMagic tube, and now we're going to go ahead and seam around the edges. We'll start out with the bow tank here. We'll start clicking in. You can start seeing epoxy go up the nozzle, and just kind of push it in. Especially get a good coat up in the bow here, because come filleting time, it don't want any air gaps. Pretty irritating. GelMagic in the tube, and then these mixing nozzles make it so easy. It takes you almost longer to go look for the stuff than it is to do it. I'm going to take my gloved finger, kind of clean it up. This will all get sanded down anyway. Yep. Perfect. I'll come around the other side. Again, we'll do the finger through here. Yeah, I think I'll do a little seam through here too. As you can see, I've got some blue tape in the corners here for, when you see that, it usually means I'm going to be cutting something along those lines or painting on it. But on this one, it's going to be the cut edges when we put in the glass tape here. I was thinking 3-inch, but I measured it out. I'm just going to go with 2-inch on all these horizontal seams on all of the tanks, and then on the center pyramid platform. And so I'll go ahead, and I got my scale set up here for 1 inch. So now I'll have something to lay the glass up to. So let me go ahead and mix some epoxy, and we'll start putting some glass tape on. This will set overnight. I'll come back in a few hours and trim it up there if it turns green, but I want a full cure before I put the fillets on top of it, so I don't disturb the tape when I'm pulling it around. Well, I got our silver tip mixed up here. Get a new toothbrush out. I got to run down and get some more of them. My local drugstore was having a special, 5 for $1.99. Line it up along your pencil edge. I'll go ahead and wet this out before I do the rollover. It gives it a little more adhesion. And I'll have to come back and snip the I can push it in there, okay. Sometimes these things will get a little minds of their own in the corners. And a little dart to relieve the tension helps. Well, that one's going to go in the trash. Let me come back with a new one. That one had a little bubble in the, something was on the cloth and it wasn't going to settle down no matter what I did. Okay, I'm going to start filleting now. The tape and everything is dry, and I'm going to use the end of the nozzle on the GelMagic mixing tube as my tool for curvature. And the little rascal's starting to get warm already, so I may have to go to a bigger spot so I can get more of it down faster. I'll go ahead and squeeze some of this out to get it out of the bag so it doesn't build up so much heat on me. Part of my problem is I made the hole too big, so I'll have to put down a little smaller bead. And she's starting to get warm on me, so I gotta get quite a bit of it out into the work area. I won't make this big a batch again for the rest of this. Well, I've got all the fillets done, all the edges cleaned up with a putty knife. It looks like pandemonium when I'm doing it, but just take your time. I did find that, let me get a shade here. When you're first putting it in, I found out later, well, on the other tank there, that getting in some of the tight spots, just put a little bit on the end of the stick, or use the stick after you squeeze it out to pull it along. And then you can use, say this is a fillet down in here, you can pull the stick along sideways as you work. Let me put a fold in this thing here. As you build this fillet, you can drag the stick along the side to pull in any of the excess that came over, and then pull it along to the next one, and then come along with your final tool to finalize it. And then you will wind up with less material along the sides of your roll or your fillet there. So it's all clean. Pardon me. It's all cleaned up now. I'm cleaning up my hands and any little spots that I may have dripped on with some a cloth with some vinegar on it. And then if you happen to touch the face with the back of the glove, you want to do that too. You want to minimize your exposure to epoxy, uncured epoxy. So tomorrow we'll come back and sand it, and this is pretty much the last of the construction part. The only thing I have left to do now is the final sand, the prime, and the paint out of the inside, and then put on a layer or two of epoxy on the rails here, and then I'll flip it over and start working on the bottom. In fact, I go down tomorrow to System 3 to pick up 15 or 5 yards of 50-inch 4-ounce cloth, so we'll put on the bottom, and then I won't put any tape on it. This will just have like the cloth on the bottom. I was debating whether or not to put some 3-inch along the keel line for wear. I may do that. I haven't, once I get it upside down and start working on the bottom, then things may change. I may put a single strip along the keel and fair those edges in before I put in the final cloth on the outside. And then it's to paint out. I think I missed all the last of the hot weather in Seattle, so I should have been about a month. I should have been painting now, or finished painting last week on the bottom, because then I could have got the right amount of heat I need for the LPU paint to get like 4 or 5 coats on in one day. So we'll come back. This will be it until the paint out.